Hi there, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today I have this tutorial on how to do this abstract dot painting. And this project is a really great tutorial to do if you're new to dot painting and you want to practice some of your dot painting skills. So like how to lay the dots, how to do walking the dots, how to place your dots in the center nice and evenly. So it's really great to do something like this as a way to practice before you move into mandalas, which need to be very accurate and precise. And I do have my beginner dot painting series, and I'll put a link to that below, in which I talk to you about paint consistency, dotting tools, how to lay the dots, how to do walking the dots. All of that is taught in the beginning dot painting series. So this is a really great project to do to just practice the skills that are in that beginner series and have some fun and be playful. So let's get started. Now you'll need a paint surface of some sort. These canvas boards work great. That's what I'm going to use. So you can use canvas boards, you can use watercolor cards, you can use mixed media paper. The thing is, if you're using a paper product, you want to prepare the back side of the paper with a couple of coats of gesso or paint to help balance the tension of the paper from what you're painting on top. Then you're going to need your dotting tools, and I have the DIY mandala dotting tools here. I'll put a link to them below, and they have really great tools. This is a small set, this is the jumbo set. They are based in Canada, but they do ship globally. You can get a small set similar to this on Amazon, Mark's dotting tools. I haven't used them, but I will put a link to those below as well. But I really like these. Now, in the beginner dot painting series, I do talk about using found tools from around the house so that you don't have to buy dotting tools. So you can use things like drill bits, doweling, pens, pencils, Q-tips, that sort of thing. So make sure you check that out. And it is good to have some dotting basics for this project. And if you are new to dotting, you may want to try this tutorial first, because this is really perfect to help practice laying your dots, walking your dots, and getting used to how the dotting tools work. So I'll put a link to that as well. And then you'll also need your paint tray and your paints. Now, I am using these three different colors, really, is the teal, the purple, and the lavender. And I'm using the Americana Bahama Blue with a desert turquoise as my light teal and dark teal. And I might even add a little bit of white to lighten that up a little bit. We'll see. And then I'm using the royal fuchsia, and then I'll make a light pink by using the white, and then with the lavender I'll add some white to that as well. So I'm using three colors with a light and dark version of each. You can choose any combination you like, using the white to make a lighter tone. And then for the background, you want to paint it a dark color. So I'm mixing together this number 568 blue violet in Amsterdam and the regular back in the Americana. And so you could do all black or the dark purple, whatever you like. And then you'll also need, perhaps, this is a Liquitex Gloss Medium Varnish, and you can use this to create a glaze to thin the paint, and I'll show you that a little bit later. You mix 3 parts of the Liquitex with 1 part water, and you can use that to thin your paints if you have paints that are too thick. You can also use this as your final coat on your piece, and then you'll just need a damp rag. Now, the first thing you want to do is paint your background with 2 coats of a dark color paint. And as I say, I used a mixture of these 2 paints, and it's a really, really dark purple, and you want to let that dry really well. And then now I've laid out my darkest colors here, and I'm going to start with the big dots first. but I can see the purple paint is a little bit thick. I just know that the consistency is too thick. So I've mixed up a solution of that thinning glazing liquid. So again, it's 3 parts glazing liquid and 1 part water. And I'm just going to pour a little bit in there. Whoopsie, that's probably a bit too much. I'll just pour that over there. And then just mix that in really well. So using this to make the paint thinner, and when you're using the jumbo tools, you do want your first dots to lay quite flat. And if the paint is too thick, you'll end up with a big blob in the middle. And so I'll show you how to deal with that. So one thing you can do is thin down your paint. So I've thinned down this one. And then you want to take some art paper and test your paint and practice laying your dot before you start your project. And then you can just test and see how thick your paint is. So that's not too bad. There's a bit of a bump there. But what you can do to deal with that bump is just take a toothpick and work it around a little bit and just level that out. And this is for the big dots that you want to dot on top of with 2 or 3 more layers. If you want your dot to be just one color, then you would just leave it with that nice little bump on it. Now I'm starting with the 27 dotting tool because that's what I have some paint on. So you'll start with the biggest tool that you want to use and load your dotting tool, and then you're just going to randomly place some of your bigger dots. And there's no rule to this, just be intuitive. And sorry, I'm a bit off screen here. And just randomly place the first color of large dots, and just like this. And then you can clean your tool and then go in with the next color. So I'm going in with the teal, and again just randomly placing your dots. And then I just realized while it's still wet, you want to go back and flatten the dots out a little bit here. I almost forgot about doing this. So while it's still wet, I should have done this right away after this purple, but the paint is still wet, so it's fine. So just swirl it around and break down that little bump. And again, just on the dots that you do want to dot over top of. And then I clean my toothpick and go into the teal here and level those out. And so continuing to place some of my teal dots. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with the dark pink, and I'll come back and show you how it looks. So I just laid 3 pink dots. So now I'm going down to a 21 dotting tool, and you repeat the same thing and put a few more of the dark colors with this smaller dotting tool. And again, just doing them randomly. And if you have a really nice dot like this one here, you might want to leave that because you may want to leave that hole. So you can just flatten these dots as well with your toothpick. Just the ones that you know you're going to dot over top of. And it's just the bigger dots that you're doing this on. So carry on with the lavender and the pink, randomly placing your dots, and you can see here how I've done that. And then you just want to let this dry really well, and we'll go on to the next step. Welcome back. So these dots have dried really well, and I've gone ahead and laid out the rest of my paints. So this is the Bahama Blue Teal, and then I mixed a lighter purple, and the way you mix your lighter colors is you put your white in first, and here I added just 1 drop of purple, and this is white with 1 drop of the fuchsia. And then I added a bit of the glazing liquid to thin these out. I have some plain white, and then I mixed up of my dark background color because I want to use that in the dots as well. And I added some glazing liquid to that. So those are the colors that I'm using. I decided to bring my tray down here so I'm not crossing over in front of you all the time. So I'm going to start by dotting inside the biggest dots, and I'm using the 21 dotting tool. And I'm going to start with this dark paint, the same color as the background, and I'm going to put this inside of a few of the big dots. So just laying that down. And so here you don't have to worry about your dot being too big. And I can see that's a little bit thick, so I'm going to thin that down a little bit. So I've just done that. And I'm not going to do too many of them with this darker color. So you can see here, I just did 4. And then I'm going to do the same thing with a 14 dotting tool and go inside some of the smaller dots with this dark color, just like that. And going back to the number 21 tool, I'm going to start dotting inside the big dots with the light color version of that. So here I'm going in with the light teal, and I'm going to dot inside of all the dark teal dots. And then while I still have this tool out with the light color and the number 21 size, I'll start dropping some of the lighter color dots in the smaller size. So you can do it just like that, randomly placing these smaller dots. And then now I'm going to the light purple, and I'll drop the light purple inside the big purple dots, still using the number 21 size tool. And if you're wanting to leave some of your big dots just as big dots, you can do that too. So just going to drop this lighter color in, and then also place some smaller dots in this light color. And so you're going to repeat this with the light pink as well. And once you have all the big dots filled in and some of the smaller dots placed in the lighter colors, you can go to an even smaller dot, and I'm using a number 14 tool here. You can lay the lighter color in the smaller dark dots. So you just want to let that all dry quite well, but while they're drying, we can go in with some smaller dotting tools, and we can start to create some of the spirally shapes around the bigger dots. So I'm going in with a number 8. And this is where you can do a type of walking the dots, which I teach in the beginner series. So I'm going to stay close to the colors I'm working with, and I'm going to walk the dots with this smaller tool and around some of the bigger circles. And then we'll dot inside of these dots later. So starting with this big teal dot and the dark teal, you just walk the dot with this medium-sized dotting tool, and just make your dots a little bit smaller as you go. And you're just going to place these around, and as I say, using the same sort of dark color as your bigger dot. And you can do that with all the colors you have, laying these lines of dots around them. And I'll just go ahead and do this. And you can leave this dot here and come with a smaller tool and continue on with that. Okay, so you can see here where I've done a few little clusters of 3, and I've done all the same size, and then another little cluster of 3, and then kind of some random dots. So now I'm going to go on to the dark purple and the dark pink and do the same thing. You'll see here that I got my hand in this light pink, so I'm just going to let that dry, and I'll dot over that once it's dried. So you can see here where I've worked in the dark pinks, working around the bigger pink circles. Here I worked quite an S shape, and over here quite a long one, and then a few in the corner here. And now going on to the purple, you can see where I laid all the purple dots, a little cluster of 3 and a bit of a S shape there. And so just laying them alongside the bigger dots of the same color. And here I brought it down here because I know I'm going to dot inside this dark purple, or this light purple one with a dark purple. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and dart and do some more layers. And one more thing, this has dried pretty well, so I'm just going to take the same size dotting tool that I dotted that with and go in and just place a dot over top of that, and that repairs that up nicely. All right, so now coming back over our medium-sized dots, the light colored dots, I'm going to come back in with the dark colors. So I'll start with the purple, and I'm using the number 14 dot painting tool. So of course you're going in with a smaller tool depending on your dot sizes. So going inside the light purple dot, I'm going in with the dark purple dot. And on screen, the light purple and light pink look kind of the same, but in real life, I can see the difference. And so you'll repeat that with all your dark colors. And now I'm going in with this really dark color using a smaller dotting tool. So I'm just looking at the whole painting so far and seeing where I want to go back in and fill in with some more colors, and like here. And so I'm going to fill in with some more colors where I think there needs to be more. And now I'm going into the dark dots with a number 14 and smaller dotting tool with some lighter colors. So doing the same thing, going over top of these dark colors so that we really just have an outline of those colors. And now these center layers of dots are drying. We're going to repeat the same process with these smaller size dots. And I'm using a number 8 dotting tool here. And we're going to do the light colors now. So I'll start with the light teal, and you just repeat the same process with walking your dots. And at this point, you can just drop your dots wherever you think they look nice. And just like that. Okay, so you can see where I've worked in the light teal. Now I'm getting a little tired and I'm having a hard time controlling the weight of dropping my dots. So I've brought in a number 4 dot painting tool, and I'm going to work with a smaller tool to drop some of the dots. So I'll start with my larger tool, and I'll start walking the dots with this bigger tool, and then I'll go over to the smaller tool, this number 4, and I'll continue walking the dots with that. And that works much better. I have much more control with that. I was able to drop them earlier because I wasn't so tired. So go ahead and do that with your light purple and your light pink. All right, so it's coming along here. And so now these dark colors, I'm going to go back in and drop on top of them a lighter color. Let's see, this one here, I'll do the fuchsia. And at this point, you can fill in the bigger dots with, any color that you like. And go ahead and add a 3rd or 4th color to some of your bigger dots, and I'll see you when that's done. Now I'm getting seriously cross-eyed, and you want to make sure to dot inside of all of the lighter dots because the light color does sort of stand out and is punchy overall. I mean, you might like that, but I'm going to dot inside those lighter colors. So carry on and then let this layer dry really well. All right, so this is dried nicely, and even though the saran helps to keep your paints from drying up, you may have to add some more of your thinning liquid to help thin them out a bit as you get towards the end of the tutorial. They might start to dry up a bit. So looking at this, there's some bigger dots that I will drop some more dots into, but before I do that, I'm going to work on the fine dots. So now we're at the point of doing fine dots. So I'm using a number 3, and I'll start with this dark paint here, and I'm going to drop this into some of the small dots, not all of them, just some of them. So for example, I'll go into this teal line here and drop a layer of these darker dots. And this is just a random thing, and you can use the colors that you have just randomly to fill in some of these smaller dots. So I'll put a bit of the darker color and the other ones, and I made sure to fill in all the light colored dots, the light pink and light purple, because they're quite punchy. Now I'm going to go back and fill in some of the darker color dots with a little bit of a lighter color. And let's see, so I've got this dark purple here. I'll take some of the teal and the light teal and fill that in. So go ahead and fill in some of the smaller dots with a contrasting color. So this is how mine is looking, and I've filled in the small dots as much as I feel looks good. And now for the final bit, I'm going to take the number 2 dotting tool, and using some of the lighter colors, I'm going to do another layer of really fine dotting. So just walking the dots alongside some of the bigger dots, filling in some of this negative space, and just intuitively going in to some of this space and working close to all of your dots, running little lines of dots around them. And again, leaving some dark space in between. And so you can do this with your lighter colors. You can lay some fine dots. Okay, so you can see where I've done the light pink and the light purple, and I've done some little light teal dots. So now I'm going to go a little bit of the dark purple and the dark pink, and just laying them like that. And we're getting really quite filled up here, but maybe in a space like this, that would look good. And again, at this point, it's totally subjective. It's, you know, and it's very fine work as well. So you're just looking for some of the spaces that are sort of between some of the dots, but leaving the bigger spaces in between, if that makes sense. And they don't have to be all walking the dots, but I am going to carry on with this line here, make that a longer, and then just maybe some little groups of dots in between like that. So carry on and do a little bit more with the dark pink and the dark purple. Now you can see here where I've worked in those fine purple and pink dots, and I put in some of the dark teal as well. So I'm done with all the fine dotting, but now I'm going to go back to the big dots, and I'm going to fill in some more with a final layer. This is a number 11. It just depends on what size your dots are. And so I'm going to just go back and do one more layer to fine tune everything. And this is totally personal. And so here I am. That's it. I'm done. I'm stopping. That's it. I'm not doing it anymore. Just I'm just going to sit with this for a bit and then I'll come back. Okay, so I am done for sure. No more. So, of course, you can dot as much as you like or as little as you like, and you could carry on and fill in more. You might be looking this and go, oh, I'd put a dot there and a dot there. It's totally subjective. And this is a very intuitive style of dot painting, and I encourage you to be playful and just go with your intuition. And again, this is a really great style of dot painting to play with before you go into mandalas because they do require a very precise dotting. And I have a bit of a shaking issue with my hands, so I'm not very good at the mandalas, which is why I do this style of dot painting. And also, I'm kind of an abstract person, so this suits me. So once this has dried completely, you can go back and put a couple of coats of this gloss medium varnish on here just to seal it. And that is it. That's the tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. We'll see you next time.